This is the first of a couple of videos that is intended to help you with the information that you'll need to know for Quiz 6. It's kind of a summary. This particular one is on the aggregate expenditures model with the money market. The next video will be on aggregate supply and aggregate demand. Okay, let's take a look at this. That looks like a lot of complicated graphs there, but if we break it down, you'll find that it's, actually quite comprehensible. Now you can go to the assignment section, module 11, and download this and get some practice on it, and I suggest that you have it handy when you take Quiz 6. The aggregate expenditures model with the money market. Let's look at this first graph right here. Here's that consumption function, and this the C function right there, the C plus I function. Notice that 45-degree line there. That just takes distances represented horizontally and reflects them vertically and vice versa. The point at which the savings function intersects the 45-degree line is the point at which consumption spending, at the point at which the consumption function intersects the 45-degree line, is the point at which consumption spending, right there, equals income. That is to say, all income is spent. And if all income is spent, savings is obviously zero. So that is where the savings function is going to intersect the zero axis. Notice at lower levels of income, the level of consumption is greater than the level of income, and that's why savings is negative. At higher levels of income, like say here, draw it up to the consumption function, the level of consumption is going to be greater than the level of income, and so there will be positive savings. So the savings function starts in the negative quadrant, intersects the zero axis at the point where the consumption function intersects the 45-degree line, and then continues here into the positive quadrant. If we add investment, here is the investment function. The investment function intersects the savings function right there. That's where all income is spent. Savings and investment are equal. That which is saved, which is equivalent of saying that which is not spent, will be spent by the firms in investing. And so that is why the C plus I function will intersect the 45-degree line at the point where the savings and investment function intersect each other. Okay. That should be old news. That's just a review. Now, let's go down and look at this particular graph. Along this axis is investment. Along that axis is investment. That right there is a little I, represents the interest rate. Now, this is developed in Figure 12.1. There's a downward sloping demand curve for investment. Higher the interest rate, the lower the level of investment. The lower the interest rate, the higher the level of investment. And the level of investment is going to be determined by the interest rate. So the intersection between this function right here, the interest rate, and the investment demand curve is going to determine the level of investment. This figure is the demand and supply of money, and this was developed in Figure 11.6, Chapter 11. The supply of money, possibly remember, is vertical. The demand for money is downward sloping. Now this graph right here, that doesn't do anything. All that is a 45-degree line. It's no functional relationship whatsoever. It's merely a 45-degree line, and it's going to take distances that are expressed horizontally and reflect them vertically. Notice how this distance and that distance are equal. That's all the 45-degree line does. take distances that are expressed horizontally and expresses them vertically. That's going to be, very useful. So now we see how the demand for investment, the supply and demand for money, fits in with our aggregate expenditures model. Now, in figure 12.5 on page 238, he works through this, although he doesn't have the model expressed quite this way. He asks, what is the impact of an increase in the price level on the economy? How is that going to show up here? Okay, let's work through it like he does, but using this particular analysis. An increase in the price level is going to increase the demand for money. People are going to want to hold money for transactions purposes. This is going to increase the transactions demand for money. People are going to want to hold more money because they need to pay more for goods and services. So less are going to be in bonds and other financial instruments, more in money. So the demand curve for money is going to shift to the right. Here's the demand curve for money right here. The demand curve for money. That's going to shift to the right because people are now going to want to hold more money. What does that mean? That means that this supply of money and the demand for money are going to have a new intersection point. It's going to be right here. That's going to cause the interest rate to rise. Notice how the interest rate rises, and so we can show the interest rate rising here. There's a higher interest rate. But notice at that higher interest rate, the level of investment is going to fall to right there. Firms are going to want to buy less capital equipment at these higher interest rates. How does that reflect up here into our aggregate expenditures model? The interest rate is going to rise. We see that the level of investment goes down. Now let's express that vertically by use of this 45-degree line here. There, the level of investment is going to go down, and we can bring this over here to our investment and savings function. There that is. Here is the new point at which the savings and investment function intersect. The new point at which the savings and investment function intersect, and therefore this will be the new level at which the C plus I function intersects the 45-degree line. There's the new C plus I function. You can see that here was the equilibrium level of economic activity, but the equilibrium level of economic activity has gone down as a result of the increase in the price level. Now, for your own sake, do the same thing by, let's say, increasing the supply of money. Let's suppose the Fed increases the supply of money. What will happen? If the Fed implements its policies that will increase the supply of money, the supply curve for money will shift to the right. Here is the new point where the supply curve and the demand curve for money intersect. So that, you can see, is going to lower the interest rate. That lowered interest rate is going to cause a higher demand for investment. If we reflect this over here, we see that the investment function shifts up. When that investment function shifts up, the new point at which the savings and investment function will be up here. That means the new point where the C plus I function intersects the 45-degree line will be higher. Oops. Not very neat, but I hope you get the idea. That means the level of economic activity will go from here to here. Level of economic activity, GDP, will increase as a result of this increase in the money supply. Do some other stuff just to play with it. Shift the demand for investment function. And see what happens there. Shift the demand curve for money the other way. Or see what happens when the Fed implements a tight money policy and shifts the supply curve for money that way. See how it works its way through the system and see how it affects the level of economic activity. Once again, this page, blank page, is available in the Module 11 to-do list. Okay? Download it and post questions and comments to the Quiz 6 forum on the discussion board. I'm going to make another little video here on aggregate supply and aggregate demand.